Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Bill Maher the other day said, this is what we're stuck with. It's Stormy or bust.
So, it's Stormy or bust.
This is the last hurrah, the final chance. It's their final chance to get the orange man in the orange jumpsuit. They're left with nothing. As we've been covering, every other case fell apart or isn't making the deadline. This was their last chance. And of course, as we know, some Democrats, in their copium-filled rants all over social media, have suggested that this case has merit, and Donald Trump won't be able to get lucky this time. Boy, oh boy, has that narrative fallen short, or rather fallen flat. We went from Donald Trump is done, Alvin Bragg is a savior, just like Letitia James was supposedly gonna save American democracy, Fani Willis was gonna save American democracy, Jack Smith was gonna save American democracy. Over and over and over again, we went through one after another as the goalposts continue to move. Now it's Alvin Bragg's turn, but it's all gone to absolute frickin' crap.
Everything woke turns to shit, okay?
The case is done, dusted, finito, finished, game frickin' over. And it's not just me saying it, it's a top CNN legal analyst, a defense attorney, a man by the name of Randy Zellin, who took to the network and said, listen guys, I hate to be the breaker of bad news, I hate to poop on your parade, but this case is done. Michael Cohen's testimony was a complete and utter disaster, and really it all boils down to what the judge said to the jury. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so once again, don't take it from me, take it from CNN. This case is done.
Randy, thank you for waiting. Your turn now. Recoverable for the prosecution?
No. Can I stop there, or do you want me to keep going?
You can elaborate. You've earned the right to elaborate.
Michael Cohen, thank you. Michael Cohen had one job to do, and that was to put Donald Trump in the room and to have Donald Trump part of the conversation concerning the making of false entries in the books and records of the Trump Organization in order to influence the election. False entries are the misdemeanor, elevated to a felony because it's in furtherance of another crime, which is election interference, election fraud. He had one job to do, and he couldn't do it on something so simple. Tell us about a conversation, and the worst part of it is on direct. He sounded so convincing. He sounded so smooth, so good. It was such a good day for the prosecution. Describes the conversation and then completely shoots the pooch where it looks like that conversation actually never happened. Done.
I will say this, as someone who spends a lot of time with these transcripts as part of my side hustle here, that conversation right there was actually only one of several conversations that Michael Cohen testified to. It was the shortest one, and it was the least perhaps important in telling the story about how, according to Michael Cohen, Donald Trump approved of the payments of Stormy Daniels, knew about how they were organized and whatnot. That call was on October 24th. On October 26th, Michael Cohen testified in great detail about a longer conversation he had with Trump where he talked about actually setting up the bank account. So does that no longer matter, that testimony, Randy?
Falsus in unum. I think that's the fancy Latin phrase which for the rest of us means if you lied about one thing, I don't have to believe another thing that you say, and that is exactly what the judge will instruct the jury. If you find anything that a witness said to be untrue, to be incredible, to be a lie, feel free to disregard the entirety of that witness's testimony.
Once you brought up Latin, there's nowhere else to go. Randy Zellin, we do appreciate your time this morning. Jennifer Rogers, thanks to you again.
And what it all boils down to, again, is the credibility of Michael Cohen. He is a man who simply cannot be trusted. This is a guy who's a known liar. He's a known perjurer. Back in 2019, Michael Cohen testified before Congress. And in that testimony, he made several false statements. First, about the Trump Tower Moscow project, Cohen lied about the timeline and the extent of his efforts to secure a deal in the Trump Tower Moscow project. He originally stated that the project was terminated in January of 2016, but actually it continued until June of 2016. 2016. Michael Cohen also claimed that he never sought a pardon from President Trump. However, it was later revealed that his attorney at the time had approached Donald Trump's legal team about a potential pardon. Mr. Cohen also falsely claimed that he did not have any direct communication with individuals in the Russian government regarding the Trump Tower Moscow project, but in reality, he emailed the Kremlin seeking assistance. And Mr. Cohen also initially stated that the payments that he made towards Stormy Daniel were solely for the benefit of Trump's campaign and that Trump had no direct involvement. But then he later switched the story and admitted that Trump had directed him to make the payments and reimbursed him for it. So those are Michael Cohen's initial lies, already calling his credibility into question. Then as we fast forward to more recent times in the 2024 hush money trial in Manhattan, Michael Cohen's testimony again included several points where his credibility was shot. In other words, he lied on the stand. Michael Cohen's testimony was rife with inconsistencies relating to his previous statements. He contradicted his early assertions about the timeline and the nature of the payments that were made to Stormy Daniels. He made statements regarding Donald Trump's direct involvement in the hush money payments, which were called into question. He previously claimed that Trump directed him to make the statements, but under cross-examination, it became evident that Cohen had exaggerated or fabricated parts of these claims to align with his plea deal and cooperation agreement. He also testified about certain documents, including invoices and checks, that were found to be misleading. He misrepresented the context and purpose of the documents to support his narrative. He made inconsistent statements relating to his own financial gain and benefits from his actions. He downplayed his own financial motives and benefits, which were later revealed through financial records and other evidence. In other words, he lied multiple times during his testimony back in 2019 in front of Congress, and then lied again on the stand multiple times during his most recent testimony in Alvin Bragg's case. Frickin' game over. And really, it comes down to the judge's instructions to the jury. He stated explicitly, if you find one thing to be inaccurate or to be a lie or to be perceivable as a lie, well, you could pretty much call it right there. And as Mr. Randy Zellin on CNN states, the case itself is, quote, not recoverable for the prosecution. If you lie about one thing, who's to say you're not lying about something else? And especially if you're lying about the entire premise of the case. The whole purpose of Michael Cohen's testimony was to prove, or I guess to suggest or convince the jury that he acted based on Donald Trump's directions. Well, if he testified one thing at one point and then switched his testimony to later incriminate Donald Trump, obviously he can't be trusted. He said both things. Which one is true? We don't know, especially when it's obvious that Michael Cohen has a clear vendetta against the former president, and Michael Cohen's also attempting to secure a plea agreement and lessen his own legal troubles. When you have that kind of a conflict of interest and multiple stories being told, and of course it's not just him, it's also Stormy Daniels, who back in 2018 said one thing, who also signed a letter stating that the supposed encounter with her and Donald Trump never actually happened. When there's so much inconsistency, who's to say what's true and what isn't? If a jury is to come to a unanimous verdict finding Donald Trump guilty, they need evidence that is unquestionable, beyond reasonable doubt. Well, there's obvious doubt, and that doubt is clearly reasonable, considering how much these people have lied. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg. It's not just the lying, it's also the partisan nature. The judge, the prosecution, and now we're also learning that Dan Goldman, a well-known, prominent, high-profile Democrat in Congress, also supposedly coached Michael Cohen before his testimony. There are way too many problems for the prosecution here, and the problems keep mounting. We went from Michael Cohen will be the demise of Donald Trump to this case is over thanks to Michael Cohen's horrible testimony. Everybody, including partisan Democrats, are agreeing that this case has become a disaster, and clearly the Democrats aren't getting what they wanted here. Alright, so that's the latest update on the Alvin Bragg hush money trial. We'll have to see exactly where it ends up. I'm surprised this charade continues, but it does, and I think it's going to go on for another couple weeks here. Not exactly sure why. We'll have to see where it goes. That's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.